Hello all, welcome to oratrainings.com. In this session, we'll discuss about the supplier data model. We'll try to understand what is supplier and the relevant entities of supplier, like how do we create a supplier address, supplier site, supplier contacts, and also to create supplier, what is the role we require? Okay, let's get next slide. So when you talk about supplier, what are the entities come under supplier? First of all, what is a supplier, right? A supplier is a person or entity that provides goods or services. So a supplier can be individual person, or it can be a company from whom which we procure or buy a particular item or a service. That's a supplier. Now coming to supplier, when you just supplier, it just can't be a name, right? It has to have some set of attributes, properties, information. Similarly, in Oracle Fusion, the supplier, whenever you want to create a supplier may have all this information, right? So to start with, the parent is supplier. Under supplier, you will have header level, the first one, this is the business classification, product and services, tax registration, bank account. It is a supplier level. Next one is address level. Under the addresses, like if at all under a supplier, under supplier you'll have addresses, and under the addresses you'll have this all stuff like sites, addresses, address contacts, tax registration, bank accounts. And similarly for sites, you'll have like a similar information like a transaction controls and like a bank account, site assignment. Now the final one is contacts, contact address, user account, and descriptive flex fill. So mostly like every particular entity will have a DFFs. And also if you want to consider your supplier as a like a login user, you have to create a contact, and also you have to mention the email, and you can check a box called user account creation required. Okay, so this is a high level overview of the supplier model, like where you have a supplier header and the remaining three entities like addresses, sites, and contacts. Okay, now to create a supplier, first of all, what is the thing we require, right? So one example here is like one of the major important information is you require a role called supplier manager, as well as you require a particular procurement agent to be assigned for your user. Okay, to the task to assign a procurement agent is like you just navigate to your procurement business area, and here you select the functional area as procurement foundation and the task as manage procurement agent. And once you get that one, you just select which particular BU and what is the username, and then that's it. So these properties generally does not need to change it. Most of them, like this is a major thing which we require. Manage supplier is a agent access which we require. Okay, that should be enabled. Now, so you can also validate, let us say for your user, whether you already have a procurement agent or not. You can just validate using this particular query. Manage suppliers, using this particular query, you can identify whether for a given user, do you have the agent responsibility or not. Okay, now next task is how do we create supplier. Okay, to create a supplier, what is the navigation we require? We have to navigate to procurement functional area. You have to select the page suppliers, and in that, once you reach to suppliers, you have to click on a task called create supplier. Okay, so once you click on create supplier, so it will ask you to enter the supplier header information, and further things will be there. Now, what we do is to proceed further, we'll just navigate to the Fusion instance first of all. So now I'll try to mimic the same functionality, like try to click on procurement, suppliers. Now this is a initial page of the supplier, once supplier screen. Now click on the task list, and here click on create supplier. Okay. So I'll just say Ganesh Stores, spend authorization. And so now at this step, what are we trying to do? We are trying to create a supplier. Okay. So it'll take a couple of seconds. Okay. Now I'll just click on save. Okay. At the supplier header level, here if you observe, this is a supplier, like the profile tab which it is showing, it is a supplier header level. And in the header level, generally we'll enter the supplier name, and supplier number will be, it can be auto-generated or you can configure it. And creation source, generally a supplier can be created via web service, via FBDI, as well as the process which we created, the manual way. Okay. And if you want to end the supplier, you can mention the end date. And then here you can mention the set of properties here, like business classification, product and services, transaction tags, payment information. All this you can mention at the header level. There are few things which which can be mentioned at the header level, and a few things which can be mentioned at site level, but both are different. So you have to go with the appropriate way. Okay. Now the next thing is, once you create a supplier, that won't be enough. We have to create addresses. Okay, so I'll just click on addresses. So you can just mention address name is Hyderabad, HYD Hyderabad, India, and you can just say address line 1, city Hyderabad 012. So I'll select. Can just select from drop down if it does not provide. Okay, and addressing purpose is required, and save and close. Okay, now the address got created. Now, once your address got created, just click on sites. Okay, now if you observe here, it is not showing the enable button, right? So for now, what I'll do, just click on submit. Okay, and then I'll just go to the analytics here, BI query. Okay. So now here, if you observe, the first thing is headset parties table where you have the supplier information, and other one is the party assignment table where you have the supplier information, right? Like it tells the party usage code as supplier. Okay. And now the other important part is why it is not allowing to create a supplier. Okay. So even though we have the information, like even though we have the appropriate role, still it is not allowing to create the supplier site. Okay, till supplier address it allows, but further it is not allowing. So here, if you observe, there is a column called supplier local flag, and there is something called change request number. So once you create a supplier and supplier addresses, till that level, it allows us to create, but to create further information, it requires the approval of a supplier. Okay, so but why do you require approval? It all depends upon the setup. Now here, if you observe, internal profile change request was submitted. It contains a change request to be approved. So now what we have to do is, so now just see this information again. So just search for, okay, stores. And now view change request. So it tells you to whom this particular action was submitted and who has to be approved. So time being, I'll open another window for the approval purpose. So there's a work list approval. It tells you to whom it is pending. And now can you see? It says the list of approvals. So I'll just log in with the user Maggie. So I'll just say, and credentials. So I logged in with the user Maggie in another window in incognito mode rather than signing out. And now you can just click on this bell icon to see the notifications here. And you could see here, it is asking for the approval of this user supplier Ganesh stores. Just click on approve. Okay. Now it will get approved in a couple of seconds. So you can also validate here. So as of now, the flag was Y, and let us retry again. Okay, let's see whether it has got approved or, okay, it's still not yet approved. Okay. Yeah, I think it should be approved now. Let's try. Okay, perfect. Now it got approved and you don't see change request number and the flag value is N. It was Y earlier. Now what you can do, just click on done. And you can again click on done. Now we can try to create the remaining entities of supplier. Now click on edit. Okay, so it says, it is still not clear, right? It's not understanding that it was approved, but what you do, just simply close it. Okay, now try again. Just search here, or you can also search via many suppliers, but yeah, you can do this way also. Click on sites. Okay, now it is enabled. Click on create. Now procurement BU and address, like this site depends upon the address which we created earlier. So you have to select the address name, and site name you can change it if you want, or else you can ignore. Purpose also by default get populated, and you can mention some extra information. And very important one, there is something called B2B communication. If you want to send this information to the external parties, you can use the B2B communication. Okay. In the CMK, if you want to deal with CMK, this particular property will be very important. Okay. Now just click on save and close. This is the creation of supplier site. Okay. Now coming to next one, contacts. So here the contacts depends upon the supplier level. So in the context, what we mentioned is for the supplier, let us say you have a business, and the CEO can't be dealing the real business, right? Like he will overview all the business, and he will deal all the functionalities of the business. But he can't just have a direct contact with the customer, and he provides the information, right? So that is a reason for your particular business, you have to mention who are the contact person where the customers can reach, right? So let's say, just say Ram test.com, and now here can mention the addresses if you want to mention. Just click on this one, and again the supplier contact, it will refer to the address which we created in our first step. So supplier contact, what are we doing? So it is mostly dealing with the information which we have at the supplier header level. Now if you want to consider this user as a user account, you have to click on this one. So what will happen? Whenever you select this one, this particular supplier contact will get created as a user. Okay. Now I can click on save and close. Okay. So this is all about how do we create a supplier. Okay. Now I can try again, click on submit. Okay. You don't see the flag again, right? That's it. Initially it was locked. Now coming to other important information of supplier, which I want to tell you is, let me go here. So we have seen how to create and all those things. Now, when you the main important tables of supplier is whenever you create a supplier, you'll have the information in two tables. One is parties, heads parties table, as well as POZ suppliers table. Okay. So it has an interlink. So you have to link both tables, or you can simply use a POZ supplier, and also you have a views which are available for POZ supplier. You can directly use that one. And coming to the addresses, it is linked to the heads location. Similarly, sites linked to the heads party sites as well as POZ supplier sites, all M. Either you can use I prefer you can use the views which are provided for the supply table. So this party information or location party sites, it are the internal tables which are linked for for further management. But what you can do is you can just consider only these POZ tables. If you want to trying to create a report or reconciliation kind of information, you can just look into these set of tables. POZ suppliers for supplier information, supplier addresses will be available in the POZ supplier underscore addresses address underscore V. Similarly, sites will be there in the POZ supplier sites all M. And site assignment, whenever you create a site, that has to be assigned. Nothing but a supplier site can be assigned to multiple BUs, right? So that information will be available in the supplier site assignment supplier site. And similarly, business classification. Now supplier contacts and supplier banks as well as business unit. Okay, so these are some of the higher level tables. We have not discussed each and every table of a supplier data model, but most of the tables which it generally used, we just considered. Okay, and now this approval information we just now saw. So this is one of the very important thing we have to consider. Even we always worry, even though when you have an agent, why it is not allowing you to create a site. So make sure that you have approval of a supplier whenever you create. Okay. So that's all. And these are some of the references which I referred while creating this particular presentation. Thank you.